In the ancient and medieval world, existence was a real high-stakes game. Life just teetered on this incredibly fragile line, and survival, it wasn't about luck. It was all about ingenuity, about control, and this relentless, desperate pursuit of mastery.
So that's the big question, right? In a world that was just pure chaos, how did anyone manage to hang on? How did empires rise from that? Well, the answer, as we're about to see, is that they found ways to absolutely dominate their environment.
And this is the key takeaway. Mastery was survival. It's that simple. Whether that meant mastering physics to bring a city to its knees, or mastering the ocean currents to rule the seas, or even mastering belief itself to control a kingdom. Wielding that kind of power was the only way to stay on the right side of that fragile line.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to explore 3 different kinds of mastery. First, we'll look at the raw power of nature, everything from physics to pharmacology. Then we'll dive into how they tamed the hostile seas. And finally, we'll take a walk through the shadowy world of fear and belief.
All right, first up, nature. And look, this goes way beyond just farming. We're talking about weaponizing the fundamental laws of the universe. Whether it was on a massive battlefield with siege engines or in some quiet room, using a deep understanding of plant chemistry.
Let's start with the big one, the trebuchet. I mean, this thing was a work of genius. It wasn't powered by muscle, but by gravity itself. You drop a massive counterweight and it flings projectiles with this horrifying precision. If you were inside that castle, it was pure psychological dread, like a silent, slow-motion hammer falling on you from the heavens. And the scale of its power was just immense. We're talking about a 300-pound stone, hurled over 300 meters, that could punch right through stone walls, bring down towers. It could deliver destruction deep inside a fortress, way beyond where any archer could ever reach. But here's the thing. Brute force was only one side of the coin. Understanding nature's more subtle secrets, that offered a totally different kind of power. One that could heal, or poison, or even warp reality itself.
Take a plant like henbane. In the hands of a skilled healer, it was an amazing tool. A sedative, a painkiller, but get the dose just slightly wrong, it became what the sources call nature's roulette. It could send you into convulsions, into these wild, terrifying hallucinations. That line between medicine and madness was razor thin.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. People started combining these plants. This so-called flying ointment, which got notoriously linked with witches, was basically a toxic cocktail of hallucinogens. But the real secret wasn't just the ingredients, it was how you used it.
And here is the big reveal. The iconic witch's broomstick? It probably has a pharmacological origin story. See, if you ate this stuff, you'd get violently sick. So to get it into the bloodstream fast, a staff or a broomstick was used to apply it to mucous membranes. And the result? A powerful, disorienting high that literally created the hallucinatory sensation of flight.
Okay, so mastery of nature wasn't just limited to the land. For empires like Athens and Carthage, survival wasn't about territory so much as it was about the sea. If you controlled the water, you controlled everything: trade, communication, your military. Naval power wasn't a luxury, it was existential.
The Athenians absolutely mastered the sea with this incredible ship, the trireme. It was a true marvel of engineering, long, sleek, and unbelievably fast. It wasn't built for cargo. It was a weapon. It was designed for one single purpose: to slice through enemy ships with its bronze-tipped ram. It was basically the ancient world's guided missile.
And this slide just perfectly lays out 2 competing philosophies. You had Athens, relying on finesse and speed for these surgical strikes. But then you have Rome. Rome was a land power, right? So when they faced the superior Carthaginian navy, they had to innovate. They invented the corvus, this crazy boarding bridge that would slam down and lock ships together. And just like that, a sea battle became an infantry brawl, a fight their legions could actually win. They literally changed the rules of the game to suit their strengths.
So now we're going to shift gears a bit, from the physical to the psychological. Because survival wasn't just about what you could build or conquer, it was about what you could make people fear, and maybe even more importantly, what you could make them believe.
So forget the myths you've heard about these elite, shadowy assassin guilds. The reality was so much grimmer. The typical medieval assassin was rarely some highly trained professional. More often than not, they were a desperate amateur, a disgraced soldier maybe, or just someone with nothing left to lose,
forced to live in total isolation, because any friend, any ally, was a potential noose.
And you have to understand, their job was nearly impossible. A noble or a bishop lived inside a fortress of pure paranoia. We're talking food tasters for every meal, decoy beds, moats, murder holes, armed guards at every single turn. Getting close to a target required a suicidal amount of luck.
Which, it raises this really interesting question. What if the most effective weapon wasn't a physical one at all? What if you could control people through the power of sheer belief and carefully crafted mystery?
And that brings us to Olympias, the mother of Alexander the Great. She wielded belief like a sword. By tying herself to the wild, ecstatic rites of Dionysus, the god of wine and frenzy, and by literally surrounding herself with sacred snakes, she built this aura of divine danger. To her friends, she was touched by the gods. To her enemies, she was a terrifying, unpredictable force of nature.
So, as we start to wrap this all up, it becomes pretty clear that all these different forms of mastery, over nature, the sea, the mind, they were all a double-edged sword. To survive in that world, you had to innovate. It didn't matter if it was a new kind of siege engine, a new naval tactic, or a new way to inspire fear. Progress was the only way you were going to stay ahead of the game.
But that innovation always came at a staggering cost. Every single advancement was built on a foundation of pure brutality, of shattered walls and sunken ships and broken minds.
And that, in the end, was the paradox. To hold your place in the world, to keep yourself from falling off that fragile line, it required a level of ruthlessness that could shatter the very world you were trying to master. So it really leaves us with one final thought. After seeing the raw power of something like the trebuchet and the subtle power of belief, which one is truly the greater force? Is it the tool that can shatter a physical wall, or is it the one that can shatter a human mind?